Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty league, PPR league, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is good, ladies and gentlemen? We are back for another episode of the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Austin. I am your host. Super excited to be here as always. Spent most of my day in the lab trying to get this together for y'all so I can bring you the best matchups, the best players going up against the worst teams in most spots here. But I'm super excited to bring it to you guys. We are brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. That is who puts the show on, so thank you to them for doing that. Going live at 7 p.m. Mountain Time every single day, Monday through Friday, so make sure y'all are tuning in. Friday is my favorite episode because we're talking matchups. We're talking about guys that should be going off for big days, at least top 10 performances is what I'm predicting for these guys coming into Sunday. And I think I got some really good matchups. So we're going to start with wide receiver matchups, I believe, and then we're going to run into the running backs, best running back matchups in the league for week 6. Then we'll go quarterbacks, week 6 quarterback matchups, and then we will finish off with these tight ends. Usually we do a best bets segment, but thought I'd just give you guys some extra matchups that I really like and guys that I think you should be targeting in your, weekly DFS fantasy league stuff that you're going to play on Sunday. I'm sure all of you guys are going to have loads of fun with that. I'll probably dabble myself a little bit too, so that'll be cool. But yeah, let's get right into it. Super excited to talk about these guys and want to start with my wide receiver matchups and start with this guy, Cooper Kupp. He just came back looking in peak condition. Obviously, he was dealing with that hamstring injury for the first 4 weeks. He was on the IR, and he was activated in week 5. Already came out, 13 targets, led to over 100 yards. No touchdown for him in this one, but had to make it the thumbnail because I know that he had a good game week 5. He's going to have an even better game here in week 6, and we're very excited to see it. He's ranked as wide receiver number 96 right now, obviously, because he's only played 1 week. I do expect this guy to, even with the 4 weeks that he missed out of the season, to end up as like a top 20 type guy. If you know Cooper Kupp, he has averaged 24 fantasy points over the past 3 years in standard PPR leagues. So it's just he's a peak wide receiver. PFF is ranking him as their 4th wide receiver for week 6, and understandably so, going up against this terrible Cardinals defense. They don't really have much in their defensive secondary. I think we'll see Kupp going up against Marco Wilson a decent amount, who is much much smaller and not as strong as Cooper Kupp. Expect him to get boxed out a lot. Obviously, Jamar Chase just put a day on this Arizona Cardinals team, so I would very much expect another top 5 receiver coming in there to do the same type of thing to this Arizona Cardinals team. Cooper Kupp also played 95% of the snaps in week 5, so it doesn't look like we're worried about his hamstring anymore. Seems like those 4 weeks that he took to recover and rest and do all of that type of stuff was a good choice for him. Came back, played 95% of the snaps, and was just ready to go. 12 targets. I said 13, but only 12 targets in week 5. Still very, very good. He's absolutely already got that chemistry with Matthew Stafford. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl. I feel like a lot of people are forgetting that. Cooper Kupp was a major contributor to that happening, and I just think he's truthfully a GOAT. He was cooking Darius Slay in his first game back, 118 yards that he had. I just don't see Cooper Kupp not having a day here against the Cardinals after they're already reeling. After losing, they just lost their starting running back. Their confidence is probably shaken with having a backup quarterback already on top of not having the best defense. And they're going to see one of the most talented offenses in the league with one of the most talented wide receiver duos in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And they got to go to them in SoFi Stadium. So don't think that's going to be a good situation. I see Matt Stafford having a big day And sneak peek, he's definitely going to be one of the quarterbacks that I am talking about in the quarterback segment. Let's talk Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has a beautiful matchup. He actually is PFF's favorite matchup right now over there. He's going up against the Panthers, and man, the Panthers have been really, really bad. 0-5 Panthers team. Not really much to say about them defensively. One guy that I like on their defense, I guess, is Jeremy Chin, who is a safety that they're looking to trade at the moment. They're kind of just looking to get any value that they can, so Jeremy Chin may be on his way out for the Panthers. And then they have Brian Burns, who's obviously or Brian Burns, he's a pass rusher. They have a really good pass rusher, but other than that, their defense is in shambles, and I don't see them having any chance to win this game at all. I don't see how that could ever happen. Going up against Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 1 in fantasy football right now, he's averaging 26.7 fantasy points on a week-to-week basis, so that's definitely going to get it done. He's already had 3 30-plus fantasy point games throughout this season, and 5 touchdowns through 5 weeks as well, so he is just one of the most consistent wide receivers in the entire league. He really doesn't struggle with too many injuries either. He's so mobile. I'm sure he does a lot of stretching on his free time, which is definitely good for the body. Maybe if Justin Jefferson would have done that, he wouldn't have been sitting out for these next 4 weeks, whatever. But Tyreek, man, going up against this Panthers team, really bad defense, bad DBs. This Panthers defense already gave up 37 points to Seattle. They just gave up 42 to the Detroit Lions last week, and they are also reeling. Tyreek Hill is literally on pace for 2,000 yards, just put up 181 and a touchdown last week in another 30-point fantasy performance. I don't see how he does not blow the roof off of Miami Stadium, even though there's no roof to be had on the stadium, because he's already blown it off a number of times. I think he goes for these 2,000 yards this season. I really do believe it. He's on pace. I think if he stays on this pace, we saw it's going to end up at like 2,200 yards to end the season. And he's already had 2 pretty bad games where he only had 40 yards and 58 yards. He just got to keep up with those 150s to keep it going, and I think he can definitely do that. Hey, man, I want Kenneth, but I want to add Charbonnet. Case injuries, who should I drop? Algier, Quentin, J-Mo, or Jake Ferguson? Eek. I think you want to keep both of those tight ends just because you want to play the better matchup. Ferguson is getting just as much attention as Goddard, probably even a little bit more. I like Quentin, so I don't want to drop him. I think he has a lot of potential in Justin Herbert's offense. J-Mo would probably be the guy that I'm dropping in that situation. Obviously, very, very fast guy. I like what he brings to the table. But Algier just got 17 touches last week, so I would definitely be holding on to Algier. But yeah, Charbonnet's an electric athlete. He's a guy out of Michigan. I really liked him. And then he transferred to UCLA, obviously. Very, very talented. And I do not hate having both of them in case something happens. But Kenneth Walker is pretty durable. I don't think he's had too much injury history thus far in his career. Let's talk about my next guy that I'm really liking this week for wide receivers. That's going to be Stephon Diggs in Sunday Night Football going up against the New York Football Giants. We're going to have to take the football part of that name out pretty soon because they don't do a lot of that anymore. But Stephon Diggs gets to play against them. He is the wide receiver 2 in fantasy football right now in PPR leagues, averaging 24 points per game. 3-game, 100-yard streak for Stephon Diggs right now, and he has it in 4 of his last 5, the 100 yards. Only one game that he didn't against the Raiders, 7 catches for 66 yards. Still put up a decent fantasy game with 13 fantasy points, and that's his lowest of the season. So very good. Personally predicting another 100-yard game from Stephon Diggs because I can't see why he wouldn't do it here. He's got a superhuman quarterback in Josh Allen that can, pretty much get him the ball at any spot on the field and, throws it harder than anybody else in the league away from DBs. Really like what we have been seeing from Josh Allen so far. He's got 1,407 passing yards and 11 touchdowns, which ranks he ranks 6th in passing yards, and Diggs also ranks 6th in passing yards too. They're going to be on prime time. They're going to want to embarrass this Giants team that hasn't scored a touchdown in multiple weeks. Daniel Jones literally getting paid $50 million a year for some reason to play football and can't figure it out at all. He has a 2-6 touchdown to interception ratio. He can't move the ball down the field. His offense is terrible. Without Saquon, they are super lost, and their offense will not be able to stay on the field. Probably won't convert a lot of third down, so that's going to keep Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, keep their offensive time up the entire game. And I don't see how Stephon Diggs doesn't go for another 100-yard day. It would just simply make sense. I want to talk about like two other guys that I like. Didn't put their graphics up, but think they're going to have solid matchups. Jordan Addison going up against the Bears in his matchup. Bears have been really bad, and Jordan Addison is now going to become the focal point, wide receiver 1 type guy in that offense. Also, TJ Hawkinson could have a sweet day against the Bears too. They've been giving it up to tight end, so maybe TJ Hawkinson more than Jordan Addison, but just sticking on that wide receiver topic. Also really like Chris Olave going up against Houston Texans. That's my squad, and we're out our best corner, so I could definitely see Olave eating up in that one. When I come back, guys, let's talk running back matchups, and I will give you guys my favorite running back matchups for Week 6. What's good, everybody? Here to talk about running back matchups now. The most favorite running back matchups that I like for this Week 6 in the NFL. Going to be rocking first with an obvious pick, in my opinion. It's going to be David Montgomery. Very solid player, and honestly revamping his career, even though it wasn't really gone in the first place. He just looks a lot better here in Detroit. So I'm very happy to see that, being a Detroit Lions fan. Love David Montgomery. He scored a touchdown in every single game. He's running back 8 right now in fantasy football. And if you've been listening to me over the past week, I've kind of been saying that I think that he's the most solid running back 2 option that you could have in your lineup right now. He's technically playing as a running back 1 option at the moment, but I don't think that's where he really belongs. He just had a really good past couple games, but it seems like he's an end zone hunter. He's always looking to score a touchdown, and we saw from Jamal Williams last year, who's honestly much worse in my opinion than David Montgomery just from a skill standpoint, and he put up the 17 touchdowns on the ground. Lions O-line really, really good here. They got the 4th rated run block in the entire league, and they're going up against the 32nd rated run defense in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was really surprised to see that they were rated so low in their run block, but I would definitely be rocking with David Montgomery in that spot for sure. We got David Montgomery 8th in rushing. Top 3. I think this is just the Lions defense or Lions offense. Lions offense 8th in rushing, and he gets to run behind this top 3 O-line in the entire NFL. He's amassed 371 rushing yards so far this season. He's also 2nd in rushing touchdowns so far this season through 5 weeks with 6 touchdowns. And he's 4th in attempts, averaging 92 yards per game at the moment. Obviously, those stats are a bit inflated because of these last two games that Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't been playing, but it doesn't look like we'll possibly see Jahmyr Gibbs. He's still questionable, so we don't really know what's going to go on. But no question, David Montgomery is going to lead the team in carries and those red zone situations. He's going to be the one to get the nod over Jahmyr Gibbs every time, it seems. So I definitely like his matchup against the worst run defense in the entire league. Just feel like that one is a no-brainer in my opinion. Let's head over to Tony Pollard. Really like me some Tony Pollard. Dude's a demon running the ball. He's really solid. Catching the ball too. He's currently ranked as running back 11 even after a bit of a down last couple weeks. Still almost ranking in that top 10, and I think he's a top 5 talent at the running back position in my opinion. Only has 2 touchdowns so far throughout the year, but has been very involved in the offense. Usually a 15 to 20 touches type guy. We got week 1, he went for 16 touches. Week 2, 32 touches. Week 3, 26 touches. Week 4, only 14 touches in week 4, and then 12 touches in week 5, mainly because they were getting blown out. And then against New England the week prior in week 4, they were the ones doing the blowout, so they didn't really need him. We definitely hate to see blowouts in fantasy football. We want a close game all the time, so our guys have to perform, and they have to be, forced to perform. But Tony Pollard gets to play on Monday Night Football this week, going up against the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Cowboys, I believe, have to be home because the Rams have a home game this week. So in Dallas, Dallas coming off that blowout loss in prime time are definitely embarrassed and trying to get that win back in blood, I'm assuming. I think they're very hungry, and what's his name? Not Nick Bosa. Joey Bosa is questionable in this matchup too. Probably their best pass rusher. I guess Khalil Mack had a career day the other week, so watch out for him. But I think Tony Pollard and this whole offense is just going to be very hungry. Obviously, they have a very solid offensive line too, one of the top 5 in the league. Dak and the guys are going to have something to prove in this game after getting, completely embarrassed versus the 49ers. So I do like this spot for Tony Pollard. Think that against a bottom 5 defense that the Chargers are boasting right now, that Tony Pollard could have a very good day. Dynamic athlete, and he could do it rushing the ball as well as receiving the ball. We got Bijan. I don't think I'm ever not going to talk about Bijan, even if his matchup is terrible. Bijan is a dog. He is a generational talent already, and if you're not on the Bijan train, you need to get on it immediately because there's not much time left, in my opinion. You're just going to get called a bandwagon fan at that point. Bijan Robinson, though, having a really solid season as a rookie, currently ranking as running back 7 in PPR fantasy football. Definitely a PPR nightmare with his ability to catch it out of the backfield. I think that he already would rank in like the top 2, top 3, receiving running backs. Maybe Austin Eckler holds the candlestick to him, but other than that, I really don't know who does. He's very creative and shifty, one of the shiftiest running backs I've ever seen, maybe even the shiftiest running back I've ever seen. And like I said, definitely a generational talent. Pretty much going to like his matchup every week, and he's going up against a 15th rated rush defense that the Commanders have. The Commanders' strength on defense is really their defensive line. They have a bunch of first-rounders on their defensive line, Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, guys like that. But going up into their next, their linebackers, their next level, not nearly as talented. Definitely not a ton of first-rounders up there. So I do like Bijan to just kind of get through that first level, hit the second level with the juke, and then he's out of there, running with the DBs and the safeties and picking up a ton of yards. I definitely see a 100-yard game pending from Bijan Robinson, barring that we see Tyler Algier carry the ball 17 more times. I don't know what that was about. Coach Dan Smith or Dan, whoever the Falcons coach is, he was talking about how he needed to get Algier more involved into the game. I'm like, bro, you have Bijan Robinson. What do you need to get Algier involved for? So we'll see how that continues to develop. But until further notice, I definitely like him, especially just because of his route running savvy and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's been getting like 4 and 5 catches a game too. So if he's getting, the 15 rushes and then the 5 catches. We're getting to that 20 touches number that we really, really like. Desmond Ridder is definitely a check down type of quarterback, and not a quarterback that is looking to push the ball down the field a ton. Doesn't really want to make mistakes and lose his job. I'm sure that's going through his mind on a week-to-week type basis. So definitely going to be looking for Bijan Robinson all the time. Every single fantasy site has Bijan ranked as a top 5 running back this week. He's averaging 17 fantasy points per game, and I just see him having a big, big day against the Commanders here. I think it's going to be, his original breakout party was week 1, and he even did good in week 2. I think we're going to have like his first 30, 40-point performance because he absolutely has that in his back pocket. Let's also talk about another rookie. I think I'm liking these rookies this week. And I already talked about a guy that I like on the Rams with Cooper Kupp. I told you that I'll be talking about Matt Stafford. And now I got to talk about Kyren Williams because I think the Rams offense is just in a beautiful position this week. I'm pretty much all in on these guys this week. Think that they're really going to get it done. And we got running back 5, Kyren Williams, in all of PPR fantasy football, averaging 18 fantasy points per game through 5 games. He's definitely a good athlete, has a lot of burst, has boomed in 3 of his 5 games and only busted in 1 game so far. I guess 2 games really he's kind of busted, but this guy is a touchdown hunter as well. Already in the end zone 5 times in 5 weeks here. Has put up 27 plus fantasy points in 2 of his games, and he also did that against the San Francisco 49ers. He had his best game where he had 2 touchdowns and like 100 scrimmage yards. He was doing it both through the receiving game as well as the rushing game, so definitely love to see that going up against a much softer defense now with the Arizona Cardinals. I don't see how they keep this guy contained as well as the whole offense. I'm not really sure who's going to eat, but my favorite 2 guys are Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, and then that would mean that Matt Stafford pretty much has to eat as well. I see them putting up a cool 40 points against this lackluster defense that just gave up a ton to a struggling Joe Burrow team. Matt Stafford is like, if you've seen Blue Mountain State, he's like golden arm still in his old age, and he can still make all the throws necessary to these guys. Kyren Williams has a bit of this target share, so he'll definitely be getting some work out of the backfield as well as probably getting the 15 to probably around 15 rushes that he'll be seeing in this game. I expect this to be a comfortable win, probably 2 possessions for the Rams. And I just think that the Cardinals are struggling real bad right now in their defense. They're missing Budda Baker, who's their best safety and probably their best defensive player. Got rid of Isaiah Simmons to the Giants or wherever he's at now. And it just feels like they're really rebuilding this defense. They also lost J.J. Watt whenever they lost him. Was that last year? Just a whole situation for the Cardinals, and I don't think that they're going to be able to stand up tall against the Rams this week in any way. Guys, when I come back, I'm going to go over my quarterback matchups. Make sure you stay for the quarterbacks, and then we're going to hit the tight ends, so make sure you stay with me. What is good, y'all? Perfect time to be listening to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Nothing going on in the sports world, really. We got some hockey games, but no playoff baseball, no football. I guess we got some college, but some pretty random teams. CU's going to pop off in a second here at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, so I'm excited to watch that for sure. Definitely going to be tuned in. Make sure you guys check out the Patreon. I'm going to do 2 extra Patreon segments, and I think I'm going to save my best bets for the Patreon segment. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into my quarterback matchups. Quarterbacks that I'm loving this week, quarterbacks that I cannot get away from in any way. And first, going to be Tua Tagovailoa. I know I use this picture for Tyreek, but we got Tua in there too. You know, picture's worth 1,000 words, all that stuff. Let's talk Tua. Tua currently leading the league in passing yards, even after we saw Patrick Mahomes put on a 300-yard performance against the Broncos. He's still got about he's got a nice little lead on the passing yards for the entire league, and I don't see that stopping. He pretty much goes for at least 250 every game. 300 he's used to that. He's really used to going for that pretty much every single game, and he gets to face a 20th ranked coverage in the Panthers this week. Like I said, Panthers have been giving it up to everybody. Gave up 37 to Geno Smith, and the Seahawks then gave up 42 or something like that to the Detroit Lions, and this offense just has way too much speed. Tua can dish it to anybody he wants pretty much and pick up those big chunk plays. Jalen Waddle is finally getting involved in the offense a little bit more. He obviously suffered a concussion in a really tough hit in week 2 versus the Patriots. Hadn't looked like himself until week 5, where we saw him get into the end zone for the first time, I believe, this year. So that was definitely good to see. Jalen Waddle, another 4-2 guy. They got a 4-2 guy on the other side that I just talked about in Tyreek Hill. Obviously, they're missing Devon Achane this game, but it's not really going to matter because they got a 4-2 guy as their starting running back in Raheem Mostert. And then Jeff Wilson's going to come in there and pick up some slack that will be remaining in their backfield. But Tua Tagovailoa is ultimately, the leader of this offense, and they're going to go how Tua goes. If they had, Mike White back there or one of those other backups, it definitely wouldn't look as pretty for this offense. They're ranking number 1 in the league for PFF, and I think it just makes a lot of sense from the eye test. This is definitely the best offense in the league, the most explosive offense in the league, and probably the only offense in the league that I can see playing with a defense like San Francisco. And them going up against the Panthers is just going to be easy, light work. I see them winning this matchup 100 out of 100 times. I don't see how at home Tua could ever lose or not win this game by more than 2 possessions. So I think he's going to have a really big fantasy day. Probably see him going for like over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns would not be a surprise in my eyes in any way. He also got the best offensive coordinator probably in the league too. I'm talking about Mike McDaniel, who's their head coach. I'm not exactly sure who their offensive coordinator is, but I know Mike McDaniel is calling the play, so I think it's him. But yeah, they're a step ahead of everybody right now. They're a little faster than everybody right now, and that's definitely going to show in this game versus the Carolina Panthers. Expect Tua to pop out in that top 5 quarterbacks for week 6. My next guy, very good guy. Obviously, the guy on the left there is going to be missing this game, and if they did have him, oh goodness, I bet he would have put up a 200-yard performance. It wouldn't surprise me, but we are talking about Kirk Cousins here. Kirk Cousins, really solid quarterback this far throughout the 2023 season, ranking number 4 in ESPN leagues, averaging 20 points per game, so definitely going to get it done from Kirk Cousins. He's a gunslinger, man. He's just been throwing the ball all over the field all season. 3 out of his 4 games, he's thrown it over 44 times and has hit the 50 mark as well. So that's really why we're liking Kirk Cousins. He's like what the NBA would call a volume shooter. You know what I'm saying? He gets that volume up and he continues to get better throughout the game. He started the year with 3 340-plus yard performances. Against Carolina, fell off a little bit. I'm not even really sure what happened in that game. Still threw 2 touchdowns, though. I know Justin Jefferson caught one of them. But against Kansas City, came back, got to his 284-yard mark with 2 touchdowns and no picks in that game. He has already thrown 4 picks through the season, but he's throwing a lot more touchdowns than picks right now. He's going up against Chicago. Chicago Bears have been real bad as it pertains to coverage. They're currently 29th ranked in coverage grade and then 31st ranked in defensive grade. We saw this Bears defense get up real good on the Broncos, and then Russell Wilson came all the way back and ended up beating them. We also saw Sam Howell and the Commanders have a chance, slight chance, but pretty decent chance to come back and win that game. And Sam Howell threw for like 388 yards, and Kirk Cousins, obvious vet, someone who sees the field really well, obviously going to be out without his leading wide receiver, but I think it's just going to lead to him spreading the ball out amongst Hawkinson, Addison. KJ Osborne's going to run around there, and he's still a really good wide receiver in my opinion. They got this kid, Brandon Powell, I think his name is, that I'm seeing pop up, and as I was watching the game recaps, he looked pretty good too. So definitely have some weapons to attack this Bears defense, and they're really not going to need too much. Bears really only have one guy on defense that I'm afraid of, and a guy that I like, and that's Jaquan Brisker, who plays that like edge rusher and kind of plays like linebacker for them too. But other than that, I don't think they really have too much to worry about. I think their wide receivers, Addison and KJ Osborne, are still going to have an advantage over these mid-tier corners and a 29th ranked coverage grade that the Bears have. So I'm not too worried about the Vikings offense here. I think that they're going to put up a lot of points. Could see them going for a cool, 28, 30-ish type of points in this game. Let's talk the most explosive quarterback in the entire league, a dude who is a problem. He's on a roll right now. He's not stopping. If you look at actually Josh Allen's past couple seasons, right in this spot, kind of weeks 5 through week 7, is actually when he performs his best thus far throughout his career, which I thought was kind of weird as I was doing some research the other day, but that's definitely a fact. However, Josh Allen, man, goodness gracious, just getting it done. Quarterback 1 in fantasy football right now. If you have him, you're very happy. He's on a 3-game rushing touchdown streak, as well as getting it done through the air with a 2-game 300-plus yard passing streak. He went for 320 against the Miami Dolphins, and they stomped on the Dolphins, which was a very good sign to see. And then against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they did end up losing that game late, but 359 yards and 2 touchdowns in that one. I don't see how they don't absolutely dismantle this Giants defense. Like I said, 29th ranked defense for the Giants, 27th ranked coverage, and this offense for the New York Giants absolutely cannot move the ball in any way, like I was kind of talking about when I was talking about Stephon Diggs. So I think it's just going to lead to Josh Allen and this offense being on the field for most of the time. That's what's going to be on the TV. We're not going to see Daniel Jones and the Giants out there too much. So it really means it's going to be the Josh Allen show. I could definitely see him keeping this rushing touchdown streak alive at the moment with 3 right now, going to 4. Like I said, Giants just don't have too many people to worry about. Really like Josh Allen in this spot. Am expecting 300-plus yards from him and Diggs to have a big day. Davis is on a 3-game touchdown streak. Could definitely see Davis be involved in this game. And then I do expect also James Cook to get back on track and have a pretty good fantasy performance himself. This is somehow the Sunday Night Football matchup that we are given. Not too good, but definitely think we're going to see the Josh Allen show on Sunday Night Football this week. Finally, let's talk Matt Stafford. I guess I didn't put a picture of Matt Stafford up. What am I doing? My bad, guys. But Matt Stafford, like I said, he's actually my favorite matchup of the entire week. Think that he's primed for a beautiful performance, and he's been pretty solid throughout the year so far. He's ranked at quarterback 17, mainly because of the lack of touchdowns thrown at the moment. He only has 1 multi-touchdown game through 5 weeks, and that was last week versus Philadelphia, but has put up 300 yards in 3 of his 5 performances. Dude's definitely golden arm from Blue Mountain State. Really like him. He gets to go up against the 30th ranked coverage in the entire NFL with the Arizona Cardinals, 21st ranked defense overall, and 27th ranked pass rush overall, meaning that he'll probably get some time in the pocket to just sit back. find guys like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, who are going to make plays for him. He's also got other decent weapons with Tutu Atwell. He's looked very explosive this year, as well as Tyler Higbee, who is the tight end, who is also solid. So he's got a bunch of places to dump it off to. Kyron Williams is going to make a impact in that passing game too. And then, just going up against the Cardinals. That's the best part. That's the favorite part here, and why he's my favorite matchup. Matt Stafford versus the Cardinals has to be most likely a blowout, and I think we're going to see a big performance from the Rams and just their whole squad, Matt Stafford in particularly. Guys, when I come back, let's wrap it up with the tight ends. Super excited to talk about my tight ends. Guys who I think are going to have a good day. And we're kind of rocking with this going up against these really bad defenses, making sure y'all know where the bad defenses lie. So we will absolutely get back to that. What's good, everybody? Let's wrap up the show talking about tight ends. My favorite tight end matchups for the whole week. Obviously, Josh Allen, not a tight end, so let's get a tight end up there. Talking about TJ Hawkinson, I've pretty much been talking about this Vikings offense all day. As you can see, like Jordan Addison, like Hawkinson, even like KJ Osborne and Brandon Powell, who we're just seeing come onto the scene right now. Let's talk about TJ Hawkinson, though, here. Tight end 3 in fantasy football, and if you made the investment into TJ Hawkinson, it's definitely paying off so far throughout the season, averaging 13.1 fantasy points, and he's a must start in every single spot in every single league, especially this week. We're loving his matchup against the Bears, and I just think his his dominance with his strength and his speed matched up with that, as well as the fact that even with Justin Jefferson in the lineup, he was getting a large target share, and most of the target share besides what Justin Jefferson was getting. Week 1, 9 targets, 8 targets week 2, then 11 dropped off with 3 targets in week 3, but Kirk Cousins only threw for like 139 yards in that week. Came right back when Kirk Cousins did well with 8 more targets, and I don't expect this to slip at all with this Chicago Bears team. Like I was talking about earlier in the segments, 29th ranked coverage grade from the Chicago Bears, and then 32nd defense total, literally the worst defense. I need to double check. if it was 31st, but it's really back there. 29th ranked coverage grade, 31st ranked defense grade. So that's the second worst defense in the entire league. This is just an auto spot for a guy like TJ Hawkinson, and pretty much every single person on the Vikings offense should have a really good day. So I'm excited for that for sure. Let's talk about my next guy here, and I'm talking about Evan Ingram. Really solid player for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's really come onto the scene these past couple of years and been a guy who has held a target share in this offense. Trevor Lawrence seems to really like him, and he just kind of fits well in this offense. If you look at his ESPN picture, it looks like he is the Joker, so that's a little bit scary, but he's been really good this year. Tight end 7 in fantasy football, averages 11 points per game thus far throughout the season. Kind of have a bit of a drop-off last week, but the targets were still there. It seems like he is an 8 targets per game type guy. Week 1 only had 5 targets, but weeks 2 through 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5, he's had 8 targets in every single game. So for tight ends are thin this year, man. Tight ends are extra thin. So we're just looking for guys who are getting volume, guys who their coaches believe in them to actually do this thing and, catch balls and get yards. He has 0 touchdowns thus far throughout the season, but it's still okay. He's still ranking pretty high on my rankings. Maybe he could get into the end zone in week 6 here, but against the Indianapolis Colts, who they're going to be playing against, man, this is a great matchup for him. They're missing Shaq Leonard, who is, in my opinion, one of the best linebackers of the entire league. Maybe the best linebacker being probably Fred Warner. Honestly, he's the best. But then Olukin, who actually plays for Jacksonville, I really like him too. But like I said, missing a crucial part of their defense in Shaq Leonard, Darius Leonard, you may know him by. And the Colts are kind of reeling without their starting quarterback too. Could be a good game because the Jacksonville Jaguars do like to sell, and I believe this is their second time already playing the Colts too. Did they win that game? I think Jacksonville did end up winning that game in week 1, but regardless, still loving Evan Ingram's matchup here. Already played the Colts, 5 receptions, 49 yards in that game. I expect him to have an even better game with gelling in the offense even more. So definitely liking Evan Ingram on Sunday. My bad. Let's talk Hunter Henry as well. Hunter Henry, very solid tight end, and goodness, this Patriots offense has been struggling. They have 3 points in their last 2 weeks. 3 points total in 120 minutes of football is obviously never good and never going to pan out in a fantasy realm. But somehow, Hunter Henry's still getting it done in fantasy football. He's tight end number 10 at the moment, averaging about 9 points per game. He put up a 0 ball, a goose egg, a nunya in week 5, but obviously they got shut out. He had 0 receptions for 0 yards on 2 targets, but I'm back on him this week. I like the spot versus Las Vegas here, and we were watching Las Vegas play against the Packers last week. Luke Musgrave was doing a little bit of damage to them. He was really the only guy catching balls for that Packers team, and I think that the weak linebackers that the Raiders sport, guys like Robert Spillane is the main guy that Hunter Henry I think will be going up against, and they just are not very talented there. They have Max Crosby off the edge. That's really where their talent lies. Then their DBs are decent with Marcus Peters and guys like that. But I think this Raiders defense is ultimately pretty weak, and Hunter Henry is a major part of the Patriots offense. If they are to do anything, Hunter Henry is going to be involved in that game plan. Hunter Henry actually had more snaps than Mac Jones in week 5, played more snaps because obviously Mac was benched and Hunter was still out there, still playing while the game was out of reach. So that's a pretty good sign generally that they want him out on the field at all times. No other tight end seems to be working into his workload, so I appreciate that as well. He's got 2 touchdowns thus far throughout the season in the first 2 weeks, and hopefully he'll get back into that 15-point range. I do see that happening in their game versus Las Vegas in Las Vegas. Let's wrap it up here talking about Logan Thomas, and he's really like the sleeper tight end at the moment for some reason. Logan Thomas has quietly been good for multiple years in this league. He's, I think, a former basketball player and a guy that's just, real solid. A tight end that I really like. Last week had a really good week. I was actually projecting coming into the season a really good year for Logan Thomas, just because I thought that he would have a good path to success being the tight end one, and no one else was really going to work into his workload, kind of like Hunter Henry in his own situation. But Logan Thomas right now doing pretty well, right behind Hunter Henry at tight end 11. And I saw him on my waiver wire. I was starting Tyler Conklin going into the week because I kind of been streaming tight ends, what have you, and nobody had picked up Logan Thomas in my league, so he's the guy that I picked up to start. And I actually love his matchup against the Falcons this week. Logan Thomas had 11 targets in week 5, showing that he is part of this offense and a dangerous weapon. 9 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown for him versus that Bears squad. Now he's going to go up against the Falcons here, and we actually saw C.J. Stroud and Dalton Schultz kind of do some damage against the Falcons last week. So I don't see why, another young quarterback tight end duo couldn't get that done as well. Seems like Atlanta and their linebacking core is comfortable giving it up to tight ends. So definitely a good sign. Logan Thomas, after his big week 1 performance, or, slightly, not really that big. He had 4 receptions for 43 yards, but had 8 targets. So really good signs there. Got a concussion in the next week where he got late hit by Kareem Jackson. It was extra dirty. If you want to go look up that play, it was disgusting. But then had to sit out, kind of had a warm-up game against Philadelphia in week 4, and then week 5 popped off. Maybe we can start seeing him be more of a major contributor in this Commanders offense, because Terry McLaurin seems to be disappearing in some weeks. Jahan Dotson, I'm seeing him getting dropped in a lot of leagues, in a lot of spots. People not believing in the second-year wide receiver out of Penn State. Guys like Curtis Samuel are actually starting to be the focal point of this Commanders offense, and we just don't know where Sam Howell's eyes lie. But hopefully, decent target share here for Logan Thomas, so I could see him having a pretty solid day for sure. That is going to wrap it up, guys. Those are my matchups. Make sure you guys pop in for the Patreon. If you guys want to hear my best bets, I'm definitely going to give them out. And I'm only going to be talking about guys that we talked about in the episode too. So if you guys want to come back for that, I'll be live in maybe an hour or so, and I'm going to do my best bets. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Interact with the channel. It always helps, and we appreciate your support. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.